do you have any tips for filling a piston filler from a sample vial when the nib is too long to get the filler hole submerged in the vial? So this is a great question. I get asked this from time to time. So the Goulet sample vial looks like this. It's usually filled to about here. So it's always over 2 milliliters. So it usually ends up being 2.2, 2.3, something like that. So, but it's a 7 ml vial. So it's that high. So it's kind of a compromise because you have to have a tall vial so that you can actually like have a pen, you know, so that if it's too wide, then the ink won't be high enough for you to fill. But if it's too narrow, you can't fit your pen in. So we found this vial to be a good balance. And we've been going with it for the last 5 years or so. But when you have a pen, such as this Pelikan M600 that I have, so this one, when you go to fill it in here, when you have 2 milliliters, it's going to be about here. So it's not going to go all the way up to completely submerge the pen. Now it's going to displace a little bit of the ink when you actually put it in there, so it might be okay, but you're not going to get a full filling into a piston pen, because a piston pen like this is going to be able to hold close to a whole sample's worth in it. Maybe not that much in this particular pen, but some piston pens definitely will. So there's a couple of different techniques that you can use. The first and the easiest one, I would say, is to actually just kind of tilt the sample vial. So when you tilt it, instead of that ink level being here, when you tilt it, it's going to then have the ink level be much higher up. And if you tilt it with the nib face up, then you have the feed down. So, and your filler hole is usually right here on the back of the feed. So when you have it tilted like that, you don't want to tilt it so far it pours out, obviously, but when you tilt it far enough, your ink level is actually going to be right at that filler hole, and you can kind of hold it delicately and then twist the piston and fill it and get at least a good portion of the ink up into the pen. And I would recommend doing it very slowly, especially if you have a pen with fins like this, because the ink will kind of soak into the fins. And then when you're pulling it in, if you pull it really fast, it's going to suck in some air. But if you pull it really slowly, the ink is going to be able to kind of saturate these fins. As you're pulling it in, you're going to have a little more success that way. That's one technique. If that doesn't work, or if your nib is really big, like if you have like an M1000 or something huge like that, then you're going to have a little more trouble, because you're not going to even get a great filling that way. If you have a pen like the Pelikan here that I have, it actually has a removable nib unit that you can unscrew out of the pen. So if you have a pen like that, and there are some, Pelikan's probably the most popular piston filler I know that has a removable nib unit like this. But if you have a pen that does do this, you can use an ink syringe and you can fill that out of the sample vial, and then you can literally just fill it like an eyedropper pen and just drop it right in there. And then you can replace your nib unit like so, obviously being careful not to twist the tines of the nib, but if you have the base of it, you can get it in there, and then you're basically good to go. It's going to kind of take a minute to saturate the feed, but then you'll be able to write. So that's one technique. There's another one that I have a full video on. I won't cover everything, but it's called the feed saturation method. If you have a pen that has fins like this, like really kind of tight fins that hold a lot of ink, then what you can do is you can put your piston all the way up, and then you can take with a syringe or like a medical eyedropper or something like that. You can suck some ink up out of the sample vial. You can just take and lightly saturate this feed, and then you just twist the piston a little bit until it sucks the ink out of the fins. And then you saturate it again, twist a little bit, saturate it again, twist a little bit. And you do that over and over and over again until you're out of ink, or until your pen won't hold any more ink. So that can work really well for most piston filling pens that have fins like this. So those are kind of my recommendations. If none of these methods will work, it's going to be pretty rare that you're going to have a circumstance where that doesn't do at all. Worst case, what you can do is you can cape and just kind of dip it into the pen and then just write with it, and you'll have to use it more like a dip pen, or just use it in a different pen altogether. It's pretty rare that there's a pen that's completely unusable with a sample vial, but it can happen. I can't name you a specific pen that is unfillable, but I haven't used every pen out there, so it's hard for me to say exactly that you might run into that situation. So hopefully that can at least help you out in some way, Sam.